Hi, and welcome to Real Trail Talk. I'm Donovan D'Souza from The Long Ways Better.
And I'm Mark Pybus from The Life of Pi. Welcome to episode 39. Today we have a very special guest in. First time on the pod, I think. It's Alyssa D'Souza.
I think it's more like fourth time?
Five, six?
Five?
Time.
Third.
A few.
At least three.
Anyway, the very popular third member of Real Trail Talk. Welcome to your own home, Alyssa.
Thank you.
So the reason we have Alyssa back is, once again, we are discussing The Long Ways Better adventure and the Kalbarri area. So you guys have actually been here a few times now, so it's not just one trip that we're discussing.
Yeah, so we've done 3 trips up this way in the last 2 years? 3 years.
3 years.
3 years. Kalbarri National Park is a great national park. I would put it in my top 5 for the state, and it's one that if you like bushwalking, there's a lot to do.
Well, let's start with the basics. For those that don't know, where is Kalbarri in relation to everything else?
So it's about a 6.5 hour drive from Perth. So it's a little bit further than Albany or, like the Margaret River area. Not as far as Esperance, but an easy way to do it would be to drive to Geraldton on the night on a Friday night. You could drive in the morning to Kalbarri and then drive back on a Sunday or a Monday for a long weekend. So it's probably just at the still doable end of a long weekend trip, but
However, we have crammed it in as a just working week weekend, where we left on a Friday night, got there at 11 p.m,
Wow.
got up early, did our thing, hiking all weekend, and left on a Sunday afternoon. Yes,
Wow.
starting work on Monday.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if you're keen, you can do
You're
that.
definitely saying you were keen.
I was keen. But, yeah, I think it probably is more of a long weekend thing. But it is probably, I think, at the extent of what is doable as a long weekend trip or a weekend trip. I think any further than that and it starts becoming unachievable.
Yep.
And as we're about to discuss, there's quite a lot there to do, so it's not like you're going to fit it into just one weekend.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah. All right, so we may as well start at the beginning. We're going to do some of the coastal trails first. So I believe we have the Bagurda Trail.
Yeah, so I guess one of the things that's important for people who, if they don't know about Kalbarri, is that it's almost 2 parks in one. There's a coastal section and then an inland gorge section. So if you like coastal walks, then you're catered for, and if you like gorge walks, you're also catered for. And the Bagurda Trail is probably the best of the coastal walks.
It was stunning. You're just kind of walking along these coastal cliffs the whole time and just getting these beautiful views. And we were really lucky. I consider lucky that we had a really dramatic kind of thunder, rainstorm kind of weather. So for me, I thought that was actually quite beautiful against the greys against the golden orange cliffs.
Yeah, because often people are like, oh, you got great sunny weather, and sometimes sunny weather just looks really boring.
Yeah, or it becomes really glary. Whereas this
Yeah.
kind of, you got to really appreciate the kind of depth of texture and colour and yeah.
Like there's a photo that I have of an area that's called the Grandstand there. And that's probably I consider that one of the iconic The Long Ways Better photos. And it's stunning. I think for people who have been to, I think, like to Royal National Park in New South Wales, it looks a lot like those sort of cliffs that they have there, but redder. So these are, they're sandstone cliffs, but they're basically, as far as I know, they're sandstone that's washed down from inland because the Murchison River starts near Karajini Way. So you're getting that sand that's washed down from there. And everything has this red colour. So it has this outback kind of quality, even though it's technically in the Southwest Land Division still.
It reminds me a bit of the 12 Apostles as
Yeah,
well, kind of in
yeah.
its shape and texture.
That kind of banded lines kind of look. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with coastal walking in Southwest WA, it's going to be a bit foreign when you get there.
Very different looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, because where in the south we've got more granite and granitic gneiss formations, and I think we have a little bit of dolerite as well, but you don't see these kind of sandstone formations as commonly in the south of Western Australia.
And what was the highlight of this trail?
I think the grandstand's my
Yeah,
favorite.
the ending. So where we started and ended. As far as I remember, we did it one way.
Yes, so I had a bike that we
I
parked.
was like, how did we get back? Now that I think of it, that doesn't make sense. But I remember for me, being the person that just walked one way,
Yeah.
it was the end. It was the grandstand that you walked to, that kind of rock formation. But yeah, then you would have hopped on a bike,
And cycled. Yeah.
cycled all the way back to the car and came and picked me up.
Yep.
So what distances are we talking here one
So I
way?
think it's 7Ks one way. So, it's doable as a return trip, but I thought about it and went, no, I think it'd be easier if we just cycle back.
Yeah.
I think we also left this for the afternoon, and just in case the weather got bad as well,
Yeah,
we
that's
kept it
true.
as a one way.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a fantastic walk. There's a lot of different features that are all named along that coastline, and yeah, it's stunning and very different to the southwest, which makes it, I think, a unique walk.
And from what I remember, a fairly easy track to follow and to kind
Just to
of
walk, it was
to
easy.
just keep up with. Yeah, it wasn't kind of, I wouldn't grade it as a high level of fitness needed at all.
Yeah, but very rewarding for low output. Like, it's not a
Definitely.
hard one.
Yep.
Then moving on, so we've got Mushroom Rock, not quite as good as the Bergerda Trail, but still kind of a bit more adventurous to make up for that.
Yeah, there's a bit of, scrambly kind of bits. And,
A little more hands on.
yeah, and the coastline is cool. There's a photo of Mushroom Rock that I've taken that has been ripped off many times by many tourism organizations, sometimes asking me, sometimes not asking me. And yeah, it's a surprising walk because you don't expect it. It's like 3.6 Ks or something. You think, this is not going to be much of anything. But there's, you go up some of these coastal gorges that are there, and there's those formations they look like,
It's like with the worms,
yeah,
the ancient worm kind of, I was going to say carvings, but the natural kind of, I don't know, you can see where they moved and
yeah,
were worms.
yeah. I think they were like little tunnels that they used to live in. And it's cool, and you can see a lot of how basically the way Kalbarri operates now. The water as it comes out of the Murchison, it basically creates these layers of sand, and then that becomes rock, and you can see that and how that happened millions of years ago in the Mushroom Rock area. Yeah.
I think it's Mushroom Rock. It's been eroded on all sides around, and then it's kind of like a platform on top. So it looks like a...
What kind of mushroom? Like porcini, Swiss brown?
It you know what? To me, it looks like... this is going to be really nerdy. It looks like the saucer section of the Enterprise B or the Excelsior class. The Excelsior class
Yes,
Enterprise.
this is very nerdy.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
I don't understand that reference.
No one will
I was
get that
waiting for a
except for Trek.
mushroom.
For Trek
I thought you were going to come up with a nerdy mushroom reference.
Yeah.
No,
Back
sorry.
to your foodie days or something.
Nah, it reminds me more of the Excelsior class starships.
So that's one for the Trekkie fans.
That's right.
Okay, we'll leave that one there.
Yes, I think we'll move on from that now.
Yeah, so we now come to when people discuss Kalbarri, the major kind of Instagram location that everyone mentions or wants to be photographed at is
The window.
Nature's Window. But there is actually a walk trail around there, which you guys did.
Yeah. So this is one that was on my bucket list for a long time, and it's called The Loop, and there's a section of the river where it basically does this loop where it doesn't really do a full loop. It just kind of goes off this way and then turns back on itself. And so there's a narrow sort of, I guess, ledge that's between the two, and then there's a kind of, I guess, an island in between the two places. And as a result, there's this walk that kind of follows that area.
So definitely worth checking out if you're there just for Nature's Window.
Yeah, and it is one of Trails WA's top trails. I don't think it's the best trail there, but it's a good one that I think is accessible to most people.
Yeah, lots of families I think would really enjoy this one, being not too long, not too kind of difficult in terms of kind of the terrain. However, still a bit hands-on, which kids have no problem with. We actually saw a family there when we were walking it, and it was quite nice to see people there kind of abiding by kind of recommended walking times, being really early in the morning. It got quite hot. I think we were there in a kind of
October, I think.
Yeah, so heading into spring, and already the temperatures walking down into the gorge were quite warm, and we got up there I think for sunrise, and like walking through there, even then it was definitely starting to get sunny and hot.
A lot of flies, very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's where we wish we had brought the fly net for our heads.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something, I guess, that's probably a really important point to make is that people have died in Kalbarri, and a lot of the times it's due to the heat. So people underestimate how hot it is, and if it's 24 degrees in town, it will exceed 30 degrees in the gorge. So it's always much hotter in there because it's just like an oven, basically. The rocks just get hot. And so I think if you're going to go walking here, it is best to do it in the cooler months.
And bring lots of water.
Yes.
Just in case, and proper footwear.
Yeah.
Because you are going up and down these ledges that crumbly rocks, and without proper shoes with grip, you're not going to... And you just don't know what could happen. And you just don't want to make that risk.
And there is a blog somewhere online I saw of someone who walked this in hot weather where the glue in their shoes melted. So have quality shoes, because it really does make a difference.
Yeah, so not one to do in the thongs then.
No.
Save that for the beach.
Yeah. And what distance are we talking about if you are planning a trip?
I think this is also in the 7K region, either 7 or 9, but it's under 10 for sure.
Yeah. So if you're starting at sunrise, it's gonna get hot if you're on that trail.
Yeah. And it is a photogenic trail, so if you're taking your time and enjoying it, you will be there for a while.
If you want to go on the blog and do a Where's Wally, you can find a really good photo of me that Don likes to reminisce and laugh at, where I'm like, I didn't realize I was having a photo taken of me, and I was just looking off into the distance and enjoying the scenery, but I do look a little bit of a
doofus.
Yes. I look like
Got your dirt face on.
I'm not thinking about really deep thoughts. I'm clearly thinking about I look like a simpleton, if we're going to put it in plain words. And Don likes to laugh at it, which is fine because I also found it very funny. It probably didn't help that the same day that I did that hike, you dropped me off. I looked at the op shop and you came and picked me up, and I was waiting outside looking mindlessly up at the sky at birds, and you thought I was... You didn't know what I was looking at. You said I looked again like a simpleton. So it just seemed to be a theme of the day. But you can enjoy that on the blog. Have fun.
We may even post it on Instagram.
That's fine. I've got enough photos online now with the blog that I have no dignity.
I won't be that mean. We'll get Don the traffic. Go and look on the website.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, we've got the Z Bend Nature Trail, which is a lot more gorgeous and a bit more adventurous. I think you described this as Indiana Jones style of hiking.
Yeah. There's like this cool bit. So it's not much of a trail. It's like 3Ks, which doesn't sound like much at all, but it's 3Ks that are perfect if you like adventure and rugged kind of hiking. Yeah. So we probably need to avoid that for copyright.
Okay, sorry.
But in the gorge, there you basically descend a side gorge into the Murchison River, and it is awesome because straight away it's you're coming down this sandstone rock, and then you climb down ladders. There's a bit where you go through like a narrow slot canyon. And so, if you enjoy adventure and rugged scenery, it's a really great spot, and there's not much to it. It takes you to the river, and the views are cool.
It's more of the experience of the climbing down the rocks and
Yeah,
going through the little tiny tunnels,
yeah,
so to speak.
So it's kind of like Karajini, but not as far from Perth.
Yeah.
yeah. And it gave us a bit of a taster for the walk that is my favourite walk. Well, one of my favourite walks in Western Australia, which is that from that car park is another walk called the Four Ways Trail. And the Four Ways Trail goes that way. And then the Z Bend goes in a completely different direction. But there's a section of river in between there. And the river itself is part of a trail called the River Gorge Hike. And I thought, I wonder if you could just walk between the two and you could do like a real loop walk through the gorges. And that walk is one of my favourite walks in Western Australia.
Mm. Would you agree, Alyssa? Was this a very enjoyable walk for you?
It depends on what part you focus on. It's unmarked. You're walking through without, it's a choose your own adventure, and the adventure I chose was to swim.
So less of a hike and more of
because we started the walk. We did obviously the Four Ways section, got down to the gorge, and then it was basically scrambling over and down and up and through all the different parts of the kind of rock ledges. And we kind of just got to this section where we just, no matter which way we went, we couldn't find a version of getting through that wasn't climbing up a steep vertical rock face or walking around this tiny little hairpin bend, which you tried and went, I could do it, but I don't think you can do it.
Yeah, and then there's no point.
Because I've got a fear of heights, and I'm not great with. I have scrambled and I can do it, but I don't love it. The other option was there was the water down the bottom, and we're like, let's just jump in. So the plan from then on had been mostly let's swim, and it was so lovely. It was really gorgeous. It was nice and warm day, and the water was nice and cool, and our packs, lucky we had put all our gear in these waterproof bags inside, which also acted like little floaties. So our pack kind of like floated up around, like, so our shoulders were kind of like up with our little pack behind us, and we just kind of like doggy paddled through, and it just was it was that from then onwards it was a dream. I loved it.
And you're not swimming the whole way. I mean,
no.
It's just bits where it becomes near impossible or it's a difficult scramble.
Yeah.
And I think that in a lot of ways that's just the best way to do it, is when you get to the water. I mean, ideally, we talked about this, having a tube would be even better.
Yep. If we were to do it again, we'd probably bring some floaty device, a little like kick pull, like a little board that you could hold onto, maybe, like the little kids at swimming practice have.
Yeah.
Something that would help, like a little extra floaty device would be helpful.
Or just float down on like a pool noodle.
Yeah, perfect.
It'd be like,
Can you imagine walking down
cruise,
with like a giant pool noodle?
Yeah. And this is very much like in the Blue Mountains in New South Wales. This is very much what they do. They go to these gorges and they call them canyons, but then they just float through sections, and that's just part of how it's done. Yes, there's there's abseiling as well involved. There's no abseiling here that you need to do. But that's just how it is. Whereas I guess in WA, we're not used to that as being a thing.
And there were definitely sections where we could have exited the water and jumped up and tried again, going up and down and through. I know I had elected to keep swimming, and you maybe slightly begrudgingly kept with me. I think you would have preferred to have jumped up and done a bit more scrambling. And then we could, like you said, you could see sections where there is a section where there's a bit of rope.
Yeah.
That can help pull you up to get kind of above and on a top the gorge. Above near where a lot of rock climbers.
Yeah, there's a lot of rock climbers.
And we saw quite a few rock climbers.
Yeah.
But then it was beautiful sections where you got out of the water and you're kind of just walking on the lower shelves through, and it's still beautiful and kind of...
And a lot of the sections I think that we saw there were bits that very few people see, and yet I think if you ask the rangers, they'll say that's the best part of the park. And yeah, it was a phenomenal walk, and the fact that it doesn't really exist as a walk is a bit of a shame. I can see why, because it's a bit dangerous. There's a bit of route, decision making that's involved. But I think that the 4 ways to Z Bend Loop is a fantastic walk to do.
I remember we kept making jokes about, it's just the Z Bend exit's just around the corner. It's just around the corner. And then we'd turn another corner and then we're like, it's just around this corner, surely.
Yeah. Well, it was like the bend itself is more like a 2 bend rather than a Z bend. So it kind of turns and you think that you're getting to the end, but it's not the end.
And am I right in thinking that this section can actually be turned into a multi-day hike?
Yeah, so you can walk from I think it's the Hawk's Head, or there's it's named after like a
gentleman.
teacher. Yeah. You can start at that end of the gorge and then finish at the loop, and that can be done as a multi-day. I think it's like a 4-day hike through the gorge, and that's an option. I think this is something that I think Mark and I have talked about as an area where I reckon they could do something really cool here, because it's an experience that you don't have in WA, and it's one that I think is worthy of having maybe an iconic walk there, where you could maybe build campsites that are just out of the gorge, because it's not a big deal to have to walk out to a campsite if the facilities are good, and then you can keep the pollution out of the gorge. So I think at the moment there's not really any plans to develop it, and I think the fact that they found some, I think it's black flank wallabies in the gorge where they thought they were extinct. So because of that, it's a bit environmentally sensitive.
Yeah, I don't think the EPA is going to improve that one.
No.
And there's also the danger of people doing it at the wrong time.
That's right.
Running out of water. Also having water in the area as well.
Yeah.
I think it is the kind of thing that if you were to do it even as it stands, you'd probably want to tell the ranger.
Yeah.
And have their number as a backup. And
yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a multi-day in the park, you have to give information to the ranger. That's an important point, actually. It's a shame, because it's one of those things that I think if people did the right thing all the time, we could have it, but we can't have nice things because people don't do the right thing all the time.
Yes. Anything else that makes this particular walk stand out for you as one of your best in WA?
Just the fact that it's basically, I think, perfect from start to finish. That there's just so many great moments throughout, and whether it's swimming or scrambling through the gorge, there's just a lot of cool things there. That this is one of the first walks that I had done upon coming home from Queensland, and I was dreading, in a sense, coming home, because the walks in Queensland are so good, and this was just as good as that. It was just as good as doing Tarn Shelf in Tasmania, or doing the walks in Lamington and Springbrook in Queensland. So it certainly was a nice homecoming to have this great walk to do.
So that's pretty much the walking that you guys have covered in Kalbarri. Now, obviously, been up there a few times, you've had a chance to look around and stay in a few places. Where would you guys recommend to stay, and also other activities to do while you're in the area?
In terms of staying, I think we've always stayed at the same resort. I can't quite remember the name of it.
Is it Kalbarri Beach Resort? I know it looks like a Ken Don. Is it Ken Don?
Ken Don.
Ken Don painting. Like the sign is really like
Aussie.
It's a slightly old school and naff looking.
Cartoon
Is there a
koala
Sheila on there?
Oh no, it's like cartoon koalas and boomerangs.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's definitely kind of had its heyday in the late 80s.
But it's a nice place to stay.
Clean and great, and there's actually quite a few resorts, I think, like that. So I think if you were to hit up like bookings.com or something like that, you'd easily find some good spots.
Yeah.
But sadly, I wouldn't know much more than that.
Yeah. That's just where we always stay.
Yeah.
We stayed there once, we enjoyed it, and just kept coming back.
Yeah. And I think we've seen a couple of the other sites. One of the times we went, it was raining. So we were kind of a bit short on what to do, but I think we checked out the bird park, which was amazing.
Yeah, and
so
a bit
many
creepy.
Yeah, there's a nice cockatoo there that can speak, but it creepily whispers.
Give us the impression.
You can do it, Don.
Hello.
So you walk past it, and we tried to get it to talk, and we're like, oh, maybe this one doesn't talk. But just as we were about to leave, it whispered, "Hello," and we were like, shivered, and thought that's going to haunt us tonight.
Yeah, it sounded like the satanic goat from the witch movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're not into creepy birds, what else can you do?
There's the pelican feeding, which is down by the river mouth opening of the Murchison. Always popular. There's lots of beautiful beaches to walk down. Sometimes they've got markets and things that we've seen when we were down there.
Blue Holes, which is the snorkeling spot.
Yep.
It's really good. So there's basically these sandstone ledges underwater where they've created these pools. So the water's a bit rough in Kalbarri, but yet this area there, yes, the water does come in, but the visibility is good. It's relatively safe, and a lot of tropical fish. It's really cool because you get a mix of fish that you might see in somewhere like Rottnest, but also some of the fish that you see in Exmouth. So you get this nice blend of the two sort of species. Yeah.
Nice. All right, so that is Kalbarri. If you're thinking about a trip, we're coming up to the best time of year to get up there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a nice road trip. If you have the time to kind of really go down the coast, there's like Nambung National Park with the pinnacles and Cervantes.
There's Lisieux, which has some really good wildflowers. If if this is probably more like September, October. If you could do the walks in Lisieux, they're really good.
Yeah, so lots of biodiversity in Lisieux, isn't there, to explore?
Yeah, I don't think it's quite Fitzgerald River, but it's pretty good. Yeah.
You got Jurien Bay with all the beautiful beaches and
sea lions. Yeah.
And the pie shop there.
Yep. And the Pink Lake, which is in Horrocks, which is, a very photogenic place and oft photographed with drones.
Oft Instagrammed.
Yes. Yeah, there's a few other things to do, which it's good because you can do things on the way up or on the way down if you've got the time. And
Geraldton.
Yeah, we always find something to do, and Geraldton's kind of cool.
Got some good nightlife.
Yeah. Surprisingly.
We'll save that for another podcast. So yeah, if you're thinking about going to Kalbarri, then start planning now. And Don has a great website with all of these walks on, so we'll be posting links to where you can find that and look at all the pictures so you know what's happening up there. And thanks, Alyssa, for coming in.
No problem.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. And if you had any questions about this or any other pod, or had any suggestions for any future episodes, please email us at realtrailtalk@gmail.com. And if you're enjoying this pod and any of the other episodes, please give us a rating on iTunes, Podbean, or whatever platform you're currently listening to us on. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.